Thank you, Dad.
And we're live at 8 o'clock. Why'd you have to change it now? Mess up my groove. All right, well, Sabbath peace, everybody.
Sabbath peace.
Is it loud enough?
I don't know. Does it look like the bar's raising up? It should be.
It's not going high though. It's like, yeah, like 2 bars.
2 bars?
Yeah.
All right, well, let's do a sound check. Sound check, sound check. It could be that. Nope. Should be fine. Maybe it's not.
I found it.
I don't think that it is. How now, brown cow?
Well,
Talk to New York.
The arsonist has oddly shaped feet.
Yeah, I think it's good, bro.
Okay.
You have to be that close.
How's it going up now when I speak?
Same.
Only about 2?
About 2 or 3 now.
2 or 3?
Yeah.
My goodness, is it? We can do a quick test. Quick test. If anybody's tuned in already, excuse us as we get this together.
Can I get in line and not see it? I'd never do that.
Boom, 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 boom.
I can't read this.
Go to sleep.
And
I'm just gonna listen to it on my phone and see if we have great audio or bad audio.
I'm cold, Daddy. I'm cold. Papa, can you hand me that blanket right there, please?
If you hand me the pillow, because I gotta use it for my arm.
Okay. There you go.
Sounds good. All right, sounds good. So, Sabbath peace, everybody, again.
Sabbath peace.
The ones here to the ones not here, to the gentlemen, to the ladies, and to the children, or the child and my child. Always forget about my boy. He's not old enough to be a child yet. He's a toddler. No Sabbath peace to the toddlers.
It's not a toddler, it's still an infant.
Oh, well, infant. What age did he become a toddler?
2.
When they walk.
Is that how it works?
2.
Is this written down anywhere? Well, we always want to give honor to the Most High God for another opportunity to hear and learn the word of truth that's given to us by the Most High God. We know all honor goes to the Father through the Son, whose name is Yahushua, whom we call Jesus. He and in him lies the only hope for salvation. No side deals, no other ways to get in. You climb through the window, he said you're a thief. All right, so it's one way, and you have to enter in through the door. We obtain that salvation by grace through faith, lest any man should boast. And we know it is not of works. We demonstrate our faith by the works that we do.
Yeah.
And if we do not obey him and continue on in the works that he's made us for, then it is made manifest or made obvious that we do not believe and that we are already condemned. In this state, we should expect no good thing from the Most High, only a fearful expectation of death. So anything that we do get, whether it's a gift of tongues or a gift of prophecy or any supernatural experience, you had a special dream or anything else it could be warned that it can and it will be used against you in the day of judgment if you do not repent. Even so, amen. And we say Sabbath peace to those in the room and also to the saints that may be watching in and the saints that's across the world that we don't even know. And Sabbath peace also to our brothers and sisters who couldn't make it. But we say no peace to the wicked. Only thing we say to them is repent, that they may be saved. All right? Isaiah chapter 28.
What did you do with my pen? I know you had it.
What's wrong? Oh. Oh, man. What are we looking at?
I've lost the pen. Oh, here it is.
You dropped it.
Here we go.
Isaiah chapter 28. You're going to start at verse 9 as we always do.
Yep.
The same thing, right?
Yeah.
Same thing since 88. Stop making all that noise, boy.
Whom shall he teach knowledge?
To whom shall he teach knowledge?
And whom shall he make to understand doctrine?
And who is he going to make to understand doctrine?
Those just weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast?
Without the pen in the mouth, those just weaned from the milk and drawn from the breast.
For precept must be upon precept.
He said precept has to be upon precept. So he starts off by asking us, who's going to get the knowledge? Is it going to be those who are new, just the babies? All right? Is it going to be the babies? We know that when we come to this, he said we have to become like children. Right? He said if anyone does not come like one of these little ones, then they shall not inherit the kingdom. So when we start, we have to become like little ones. But then he asked the question, who is he going to teach the knowledge to now? Is it going to be the little ones? Right? The ones just drawing off the milk? He said to them it's going to be precept upon precept.
Precept upon precept, line upon line upon line, here a little and there a little. For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people.
All right, so he said for them it's going to be precept upon precept, precept upon precept. He said it's going to be a puzzle, right? He said it's going to be a puzzle for them. It's going to be in a situation where they have to kind of fit it and put it together and try to put this precept on this precept and this line with this line, a little bit here, a little there. And then it's tough, right? For a child, for somebody who's young, they won't be able to understand it. So that's why he comes back and he says, I speak to this people like somebody who has another lip, another tongue rather, right? Or somebody who has a stammering lip.
For with stammering lips and another tongue will he speak to this people, to whom he said, this is the rest, wherewith ye may cause the weary to rest. And this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear.
All right? So to us, the ones who's offered salvation, the ones who's offered the promise, he said, I'm speaking to these people like this, right? Every man and woman who ever heard the gospel, who ever read the Bible, who ever heard the word, right? He said, I'm speaking to you in this manner, right? That's why when we look into the Bible, we look at it like, well, what is this saying to me? What is God trying to say to me, right? Because he's talking to us in another lip, the same way we would talk to somebody who was speaking, French to us. Coming to us talking about some wee. I don't know what you're talking about, right? What are you trying to say to me, right? And so he's trying to get us to understand that this is how it happens when we're young, when we're new to the faith, when we're still little ones. All right, let's see what else happens next. To whom he said,
and this is the refreshing, yet they would not hear.
So the word of the Lord was unto them.
But the word of the Lord was unto them precept, line upon line, here a little and there a little.
Right? So the word of the Lord to the ones who would not hear, right? To the ones who it came to them and they couldn't understand it and they wouldn't hear. They wouldn't try to listen. They wouldn't try to study. They wouldn't stick with it. They didn't pay attention. For them, it was precept upon precept. So for them, it was line upon line. So for them, it was here a little, there a little. It was a puzzle. It was something that they can't figure it out. And I wonder why this was. Right? Let's read what the next part of that verse says.
That they might go and fall backward and be broken and snared and taken.
The reason why is they might go, they might fall backwards, they might be broken, they may be snared, and they may be taken. A snare is a trap. So he said he's trapping the people who do not hear, who do not listen, who do not obey, who do not pay attention to his word. It becomes a trap. He says you think you got it, right? You think you got this precept, you think you got this precept, but really it's a little bit here and a little bit there. Right? So we always start here for one to know that how we study this Bible, you have to pay attention. Right? It may be confusing, it may be something that we don't understand at the moment. We may be looking at it like, what is he trying to come say to us? But we know that we have to endure it until the end. We have to continue to study, continue to look into the word. And then the number two reason that we start off with this is that we understand why we jump back and forth, right? We're going to get a little verse from here, a little verse from there. And the reason why is because once he gives it to you to be skilled in the word, then you're able to put these things together and make sure that you can paint a picture for whoever you're teaching, right? Because what he's doing is he's opening up the knowledge to a man. He doesn't give us anything except for the benefit of his congregation, right? Or as the Bible would call it, church, right? But the true translation where in English from Hebrew would be congregation, right? So the benefit of his congregation, he gives knowledge, he gives love, he gives these gifts so that we can benefit and build each other, so we can teach and we can help one another along. All right? So from there, let's go ahead and go to Ruth chapter 1, verse 1. So if we remember, we started off we left off last week in the book of Judges. All right, so the next book is Ruth. So we started off from the law. All right, we started off in Genesis, the first 5 books of the Bible, moved on to Joshua. Then after Joshua, we see that he established the promised land by the hand of God, right? The Most High led him, and he led the people to establish into the promised land, right? Once he established the promised land, he died, the elders died who lived with him, and then everybody did what was right in their own eyes, right? Everybody was doing whatever we looked at, and that's what Judges told us. It said, in those days there was no king in Israel, right? But every man did what was right in his own eyes. And we paid attention. We wanted to pay attention to the fact that it says every man did what was right in his own eyes. Not every man did whatever he wanted to do. Not every man did whatever, just tried to get over. And not every man thought that what he was doing was wrong, but he did it anyway. Every man rationalized, and he did what was right in his own eyes. So when they did this, even though it was wrong, he thought it was right, right? And that's what we try to protect ourselves against. We don't want to think something is right just because this is how we've always done it or it doesn't feel wrong to us. We want to know for a fact what does the word say concerning that issue, and we want to make sure we move as close as we can to righteousness and not try to tiptoe on the line of unrighteousness saying, well, technically I'm not doing it. We want to get as far away from unrighteousness as possible. We already on a narrow road, which means it's not a lot of room to move. So the wrong step, if we're trying to walk close to the edge, we'll mess around and fall. All right? So we're going to start off at Ruth, chapter 1, who was actually in the times, and it actually tell us. So let's go ahead and Ruth chapter 1.
Now it came to pass in the days when the judges ruled that there was a famine in the land.
Right? So we just started, or we just left off at Judges. So this is in the same time period. Right? In the same time period that many people were doing what was right in their own eyes, not looking to the Most High God, not looking to the law, not looking to the word to determine what's right and wrong. They did what was right in their own eyes, right? So in this time period, there was a famine in the land, and in the time of the Judges, we read about Ruth. Let's see who Ruth is.
That there was a famine in the land, and a certain man of Bethlehem, Judah, went to sojourn in the country of Moab.
All right, so we had a certain man that was from Bethlehem, Judah, and he went to sojourn in the country of Moab. Why? Because there was a famine in Judah. So if there's a famine in Judah, they're looking like, well, where the food at? We'll die out here. So they went on to Moab. Moab was one of the neighboring countries, one of the countries that was taken over by Moses, actually. And then the children of Gad, the half tribe of Manasseh, and also the Reubenites, our brother and the Reubenites took over that land. Okay? So now they're back into the land of Moab, the outskirts. Go ahead.
He and his wife and his 2 sons. And the name of the man was Elimelech, and the name of his wife was Naomi, and the name of his 2 sons, Mahlon and Chilion. Yeah, they black. Ephrathites of Bethlehem, Judah. And they came into the country of Moab and continued there. And Elimelech, Naomi's husband, died, and she was left and her 2 sons. And they took them wives of the women of Moab. The name of the one was Orpah, and the name of the other Ruth.
All right, so now we have Naomi, and her husband died. All right, and she has 2 sons. Her 2 sons took wives of Moab. Remember, they all left Judah, right? They were Ephrathites. A lot of people think Ephrathites means Ephraim. They're from Ephraim. That's not the case. An Ephrathite is somebody who's from Judah, right? And so they took these people who were from Ephrathah or from Judah, and they moved on into the land of Moab with their sons, with their entire family. Out there, the father died, right? Naomi's husband. Naomi's the mom, and then the father dies, right? Elimelech. All right, after he dies, his sons take wives in Moab, right? So this is a Gentile nation. This is not our people. So they ended up taking sons in Moab. Let's find out what happens next.
And they dwelled there about 10 years. And Mahlon and Chilion died, also both of them.
All right, so now the two sons also die, along with the father. So the father died, and the two sons died.
And the woman was left of her two sons and her husband. Then she arose with her daughters-in-law, that she might return from the country of Moab, for she had heard in the country of Moab how the Lord had visited his people and given them bread.
All right, so now the famine is over, she said. She heard about the famine being done. Let's see what happens next.
Wherefore she went forth out of the place where she was, and her two daughters-in-law with her, and they went on the way to return unto the land of Judah.
All right, so now you had this poor widow, Naomi. All right, she lost her husband and her two children. The only thing she has left now is her two daughter-in-laws. So as she traveled, of course, the two daughter-in-laws ended up going back with her to Judah. All right, so now they go back to the land of Judah. She has her two daughter-in-laws with her. Her two sons are dead, so the two daughter-in-laws' husbands are dead. Right, so it's three widows walking. Two of them are strangers because they're not from Judah. They're not from Israel. Right, so two of them are strangers. Naomi's from Judah, but she's with these other widows as her daughter-in-law. They go back to Judah, and let's see what happens.
And Naomi said unto her two daughters-in-law, Go, return each to her mother's house. The Lord deal kindly with you, as he hath dealt with the dead and with me.
All right, so she said, okay, thank you for getting me here. Go ahead and go back to your land. The Lord, Yahuwah, he deals kindly with you the same way that you dealt kindly with me. Right, the same way you dealt kindly with the dead. So they mean, in other words, they were good wives. Right, so as good wives, he said, you dealt kindly with the dead, with your husbands who are now dead. And you also dealt kindly with me. Thank you so much. Go ahead and go back to your land. Let's see how they respond.
The Lord grant you that you may find rest, each of you in the house of her husband. Then she kissed them, and they lift up their voice and wept. And they said unto her, Surely we will return with thee unto thy people. And Naomi said, Turn again, my daughters. Why will you go with me? Are there yet any more sons in my womb, that they may be your husbands? Turn again, my daughters. Go your way, for I am too old to have a husband.
All right, so now what we look at is she's trying to get them to have a husband. She's like, what's the point of staying with me? Y'all still young. Y'all can still get husbands. And y'all know I'm not having no more kids. And then she's going to continue on to say, even if I could have some more kids, what are y'all going to stay around until they get old enough? Right? Our people wasn't pedophiles. You'll read a lot of the history. You have a lot of people messing around with these young girls. Like a lot of these nations, you have the Germans and the Vaskovs, I think. And they used to marry really, really, really young. But our people didn't do that, right? We always waited till the women flowered, and we always waited till the men were old enough, right? So we get into this situation, and there she's looking like, what are y'all going to wait? What's the point of waiting around with me? Y'all go back to your land, and y'all get y'all some good husbands, right? So now we're going to see what happens here.
Turn again, my daughters, and go your way, for I am too old to have a husband. If I should say, I have hope, if I should have a husband also tonight, and should also bear sons, would ye tarry for them till they were grown? Would ye stay for them from having husbands?
All right, so she said, what, you going to wait for them? Even if I did have, even if a miracle happened, I did have a boy. What, you going to wait for him now? You know what I'm saying? And I got to have two of them for each of y'all. So it's ridiculous, right?
Nay,
But, go ahead.
Nay, my daughters, for it grieveth me much for your sakes that the hand of the Lord is gone out against me. And they lift up their voice and wept again. And Oprah kissed her mother-in-law, but Ruth clave unto her.
All right, so Ruth clave onto her. All right, so Orpah, that was one of the daughters-in-law, one of the wives, one of the widows. She was from Moab. She is like, you know what I'm saying, she cried. But Ruth is like, I'm not going anywhere. Right, she clave onto her. Whose name represents clinging or cleaving? Levi, right? Levi clave. Remember back in Exodus when all the people went a horde after the idol, right? The calf, the golden calf. Levi was the only one who turned and was like, you know what? I'm a ride, right? Moses asked, who's with Yahuwah? Right? Levi said, oh, he's right here. And he said, everybody take your sword and kill your brother. Right? And Levi was down with it, given the judgment of the Most High God, because the Most High God wanted to punish the people, and he used the Levites to do it. So they clave unto the Most High, right? And so in the same way, now you have Ruth who's cleaving onto Naomi. She said, I'm not leaving, right? The reason why they're able to even look at how getting another husband is because that's how the law is. What we look at is, well, anybody get a divorce, you can get a new husband. But that's not what the law says. The law says, well, matter of fact, let's go to Romans 7. Hold what we got there. We're going to come back. Let's go to Romans chapter 7. Hush that mouth. What verse did we leave off on? 12?
14.
14? We're going to go to Romans chapter 7, verse 1. Ain't you supposed to be asleep, boy? What's so funny? What?
Please just trying to use your arm.
Oh, that's not nice.
Oh, there we go.
Don't worry. I'll be getting my laughs at home sometime.
Romans chapter 7, verse 1.
Know ye not, brethren, for I speak to them that know the law.
All right, so he's speaking to the brethren. It's Romans now. He's speaking to the brethren that know the law. He said, know ye not, brethren, for I speak to the ones that know the law. Right? So a lot of these Christians, they should close the book at this point. Go ahead.
How that the law hath dominion over a man as long as he liveth.
All right, so the law, as long as you live, yeah, it has dominion over you. Right? Let's keep reading.
For the woman which hath a husband is bound by the law to her husband.
So he's giving an example. Right now he's making a point. He's trying to make the point that the law has dominion. That means you're subject to the law. You have to do what the law says or you get punished as long as you live. Right? And to make that point, he gives an example. Okay, you don't believe me? Well, let's think about a woman. Right? So let's hear about the woman.
For a woman which hath a husband is bound by the law to her husband so long as he liveth. But if the husband be dead, she is loosed from the law of the husband.
Right? So that's why Naomi and that's why Orpha, they're able to get husbands now. Not because they get a divorce, not just because somebody made them mad. You don't clean the kitchen enough, so now we're getting a divorce. Or no, you don't rub my feet enough, so now we're getting a divorce. It doesn't work out that way. Right? He said the only way you can split up is the other one's not living. Right? One of you die, the law has no jurisdiction over you anymore. Right? Let's keep on reading. Let's see the point that he's trying to make, though.
So then, if while her husband liveth, she be married to another man, she shall be called an adulteress.
Right? All right. Yahushua told her. He said, if you put her away for any reason other than fornication, right, then you cause her to commit adultery. Right? And you yourself, if you sleep with somebody else, you commit adultery. And that's what Yahushua told us. So he's saying the same thing. Keep going.
But if her husband be dead, she is free from that law, so that she is no adulteress, though she be married to another man.
So now we see you can get remarried at this point, right? Your husband died, you can get remarried.
Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law, but by the body of Christ, that ye should be married to another, even to him who was raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto God.
Right? So we look at these situations and we see on Sinai. On Sinai, we were married to the Most High God, right? He made a covenant. That's what marriage is. It's a covenant. So he made a covenant. This covenant is customarily called the law. That's why he says you're dead to the law. He's not saying dead to every single instruction of the law or that the instructions in the law are no longer valuable. But he's saying the covenant, the agreement. If you do this, this will happen. Or if you do this, this will happen. That includes the promises and the judgments, right? He said you're dead to that. So what the law promised, you don't get it. And what the way the law judges you, you don't get it. So when he says you live long in the days, well, even if you keep the law, you won't live long in the days. That has nothing to do with you now, right? And then in terms of the judgment, if you break the law, well, you're dead to that part also. So now even if you break the law, you won't be stoned, right? These judgments of the law no longer have jurisdiction, the good part or the bad part. You don't get the good part of the law, you don't get the bad part of the law because it no longer has jurisdiction. He says now we cling or we hold on to. Let's read that again. What is that, verse 3 or 4? Probably verse 4.
Wherefore, my brethren, ye also are become dead to the law by the body of Christ.
Right, so we become dead to the law by the body of Christ.
That ye should be married to another,
All right, that we should be married to another. Who is that other going to be?
Even to him who was raised from the dead, that we should bring forth fruit unto God.
All right, and the purpose of this marriage is to bring forth fruit unto God. Keep that in mind, right? The purpose of the marriage is to bring forth fruit unto God, right? Mm-hmm. All right, let's go ahead and go back to hear about Naomi. Ruth, chapter 1, verse 15, I guess. We left off 14, so verse 15. You need a highlighter. No, I don't have any highlighters. What happened to our highlighters? They're probably in that closet now. I can't get it. Ruth chapter 1, verse 15. Like what? The Bible? What?
More children.
Oh, that's why you made that face when you. Oh my God, you cut that out. We ain't have no more kids. We brought forth fruit unto God. That's it.
No, fruits is what? Fruit.
That's talking about Yahushua and us, the congregation, bring forth fruit.
That's fruit.
And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people.
Right? So Naomi said, look, pay attention. Your sister-in-law, she went back. So Orpha left. Orpha was like, oh, I miss you. You know what I'm saying? I really enjoyed it. It's not to say Orpha didn't care about her. Obviously, she did. She had crying. But she said, okay, I'm going to take your instructions. You told me to go back. You're right. I do need to get a husband. It's rough out here, right? Especially at this time period. We got independent women now. But at this time period, the women understood their role and they were proud of it, right? So they understood that the man was supposed to be the leader and was supposed to be the provider, right? So at this time, with you being a widow and you already being married, now it's in a situation where it may not be as easy to get a husband. So she's like, yeah, you're right. I do need to go back onto my people and see what I can try to get accomplished here, all right? But Naomi, let's see. What did Naomi say?
And she said, Behold, thy sister-in-law is gone back unto her people and unto her gods. Return thou after thy sister-in-law.
All right, so she went back to her people and unto her gods. Return just like your sister. Go on, Ruth.
And Ruth said, Entreat me not to leave thee, or to return from following after thee. For whither thou goest, I will go, and where thou lodgest, I will lodge.
Right?
Thy
So now,
people shall be my people, and thy God my God.
all right, so now she's looking to look. Don't entreat me to go. Don't try to get me to go. Right? Wherever you go, I'm gonna go. Wherever you lodge, I'm gonna lodge. Right? Your people gonna be my people. Right? You from Judah. I'm from Judah too. Then you know what I'm saying. Your God gonna be my God. I don't worship the Moabite gods no more. I worship Yahuwah. Right? I'm going wherever you go. I believe whatever you believe. I'm clinging to you, and I'm gonna beat your butt. Stay up here with your mom. Put his butt to sleep or something. He's just starting to crawl. Anyways, but yeah, she said, you know what I'm saying? She said, whatever you do, I'm going to do, right? I'm going to be with you. Your people, my people, and your God, my God, right? So what does that sound like for us? What examples can we think of?
Gibeonites.
Gibeonites?
Then who else said that?
I saw the Gibeonites.
They put on Christ.
They put on Christ. Okay, the Gibeonites. And that's what we covered in Judges, right? In Judges, the Gibeonites, they knew that they were going to be destroyed. So what they did is they dressed up like they were from a faraway country because they knew that in the law it told us that we didn't have to destroy the people in the faraway country. We could make peace. But anyway, anybody in the land of Canaan, we had to utterly destroy them. Right? So the Gibeonites they from Canaan, but they had to dress up like people from a faraway country, and that's what we relate to putting on Christ. Right? We are under the destruction of the law, but if we put on Christ, then we become free, and he makes peace with us, right? So just like the Gibeonites do that, we look at that as a testimony of Christ. So now we're looking at how could this be a testimony? A woman saying, wherever you go, I'm going to go, right? I'm not turning back. I'm not going anywhere, and your God going to be my God, right? Let's go to Romans. Let's go to John. I don't know why I say Romans. John chapter 6, verse 66. John 6:66, right?
I think Okay, stop watching it now.
You know what I'm saying? This guy knew I was a little iffy about him. Everybody gets scared of 666, but it's actually 666. It's not the same. Not just a series of sixes, but he said the number is a 666. So it's a full number.
From that time, many of his disciples went back and walked no more with him.
All right? So just like some people may have stopped watching, all right? At that time, many of his disciples, he said some rough stuff, right? He said some stuff like, we can't accept it. What you talking about, drinking your blood? Right? Eat your flesh? That's against our law. We can't do that. Law told us we eat everything except the blood. If the blood is in it, we don't eat it. Right? We don't eat no animal with the blood. Now you're a human being. First, you're unclean. We can't eat you anyway. You're a human being. And then on top of that, you tell us to eat your flesh and drink your blood. That don't make any sense. So after that, a lot of his disciples decided to turn away. Keep going.
Then said Jesus unto the 12, will ye go astray? Will ye go away?
Right? He said unto the 12 disciples, he said, what, y'all gonna go astray too? Right? Y'all gonna go away?
Then Simon Peter answered him, Lord, to whom shall we go? Thou hast the words of eternal life. And we believe and are sure that thou art the Christ, the Son of the living God.
He said, where I'm gonna go? Your God is my God. Right? Right? Your God is my God. Go ahead and go to John chapter 20. John chapter 20, verse 15. All right, so at this point, Yahushua was already, or Jesus, he was already put into the tomb, right? The third day had passed. And what day was the third day? What day of the week?
Thursday, Sunday.
The third day. Yeah, Sunday. So third day was the Sunday, right? So now we know that they came just before the day or just before the day came in on Sunday, right? So just before the light started to shine on Sunday, right? We know our days reckon from sunset to sunset. So it was already the first day of the week when the light started coming. That's when they were in there and they were looking for him and couldn't find him, right? So John chapter 20, verse 15. They see the angels there and all that, and let's see what happens with Mary.
Jesus said unto her, Woman, why weepest thou?
All right, so yeah, so woman, why are you crying? Right? Why are you sitting here crying?
Whom seekest thou? She, supposing him to be the gardener, said unto him, Sir, if thou have borne him hence, tell me where thou hast laid him, and I will take him away. And Jesus said unto her, Mary. She turned herself and said unto him,
Rabboni, right? So she looked at him, and she didn't know who he was. She thought he was just a gardener. Like, listen, if you did something with him, just tell me where he is, and I'll take him away. You know what I'm saying? Stop playing. Where is he at? I know you know where he at. Right? And so he said, Mary. And she said, oh, Rabboni, right? Which is to say master, right? It should say it there.
Which is to say master. And Jesus said unto her, Touch me not, for I am not yet ascended to my Father. But go to my brethren, and say unto them, I ascend unto my Father and your Father.
He said, I ascend unto your Father and my Father and your Father. And I ascend unto who?
And I ascend unto my Father and your Father, and to my God and your God.
All right? And to my God and your God. Right? So we see the same thing Naomi is representing. It's the same thing that Christ represents. Right? Ruth clung on to Naomi. Right? She is crying. She is weeping. Why weepest thou? Mary. Right? He said, go ahead and go tell the people, I'm ascending on to my Father and your Father and my God and your God. And Naomi is looking like, well, why don't you go ahead? Why are you crying? Right? And then Ruth is saying, well, you know what I'm saying? Wherever you go, that's where I go. Right? I want to be, your people going to be my people, and your God going to be my God. Right? So that's how all these things play out. We see all these things that's in the scripture. Every bit of it testifies to him. All right? Let's go ahead and go back. Let's go to Ruth chapter 2, actually. All right, so Ruth ends up staying with Naomi. All right, they end up dwelling in the land of Judah. But now it's time to eat, right? Remember, they just now getting back to the land. They don't have anything too much established, and they don't have any men to look over them. All right, so it's time to eat. And Naomi's old. She's an old woman. So now you just have Ruth, who is a younger woman. And Ruth chapter 2, verse 1 should pick us up from there.
And Naomi had a kinsman of her husband's, a mighty man of wealth of the family of Elimelech, and his name was Boaz.
What's a kinsman?
Brother.
All right, brethren or a family member. All right. So he had a family member, probably a cousin. All right. So he's saying that she had a cousin or a family member of her husband. Right. Her husband was Elimelech. Right. His name, this kinsman, was Boaz. Let's hear about Boaz.
And Ruth the Moabitess said unto Naomi, Let me now go to the field and glean ears of the corn after him, in whose sight I shall find grace. And she said unto her, Go, my daughter.
So she said, In whose sight I shall find what?
Grace.
In whose sight I shall find grace. We talked about grace a couple weeks ago, right? So he said, In whose sight I shall find grace. Keep going.
And she went and came and gleaned in the field after the reapers. And her hap was
What's gleaned? What does it mean to glean?
Take the last of the crop.
All right, let's take the little bit that's left over, right? The last of the crop. So you go through, and after I reap and harvest my field, I take and I try to get all the wheat. Once I get all the wheat off of it, I might leave a little bit, right? Sometimes, you know what I'm saying, you miss a few parts. So the glean is when you come in after it's been, you just kind of pick whatever's left. You know what I'm saying? Whatever's left over, you just picking it. All right, so she came through, and that's what she's doing. She's gleaning the field. Let's see.
And her hap was to light on a part of the field belonging unto Boaz, who was of the kindred of Elimelech.
Right, so her hap was to light on the field. In other words, saying her portion, right? The portion that she gleaned on, the portion of this big field that she gleaned on belonged to Boaz, right? So remember, Boaz was Elimelech's family member, cousin probably, right? Brother, right? So Boaz, this belonged to him, the kinsman.
And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, The Lord be with you. And
right, so Boaz, he came from Bethlehem. He came from out of town. He came to his people, his reapers. Those are the people who go through and they harvest, right? They take the reaper. We all heard the grim reaper. So that tool that he has is what is it? Scythe or seed? Scythe. So he takes it and he hits the wheat, right? Cuts it down, chops it up. We talked about it before, how they bundle it up into something called a sheaf, right? That's when you just wrap all your wheat or all your grain into one bundle, right? So they take it. So they out there going to work. He sees them. He said, "Oh, the Lord be with you." That's how we greeted each other. Nowadays we traditionally say shalom, but we don't actually read that in the Bible. We see Yahuwah be with you or peace be unto you. And believe it or not, peace be unto you is what the Muslims say, right? What is it?
Assalamu
alaikum, right? So for us it's Shalom alaikum, right? It's the same thing. It's just pronounced a little differently because it's different languages, but the languages in somewhat similar. Anyways, I'll keep going.
And behold, Boaz came from Bethlehem and said unto the reapers, The Lord be with you. And they answered him, The Lord bless thee.
All right, so the Lord be with you. Yahuwah be with you, right? Yahuwah bless thee. Let's see what they say.
Then said Boaz unto his servant, Then Boaz said unto his servant that was set over the reapers, Whose damsel is this?
All right, so he said, Who is this woman? You know what I'm saying? Who is this one? Who does she belong to? You got to find out, right? You got to find who she belonged to. What happens next?
And the servant that was set over the reapers answered and said, It is the Moabitish damsel that came back with Naomi out of the country of Moab.
They say, oh yeah, she from Moab. She came back with Naomi though, right? Out of the country of Moab. What happens next?
And she said, I pray you, let me glean and gather after the reapers amongst the sheaves.
Right, so now his servants are telling him, this is what she came to us. She came to us talking about, I pray you, right? I beg you, I ask you. Just let me go ahead and glean amongst the sheaves, right? We talked about the sheaves being the bundle. It's like, that's the good part, right? If you could pick around the bundle, that means there's a lot of good stuff there that probably fell out of the bundle. So she said, let me go ahead and let me glean amongst the sheaves. I don't want to glean in the field now. I might find some in the field, but I'm going to for sure find some beneath the sheaves. So he said, let me go ahead and pick around the sheaves, right? And now they reporting this is what she asked us. So what you think Boaz said? Absolutely. Now that's my good stuff. Let's see.
So she came and hath continued even from the morning until now.
She been here all day, right? All day she been sitting here picking at these sheaves, just gleaning whatever she can find.
That she tarried a little in the house.
All right, and for a little bit she took a little rest and she went in the house, right? They reporting all this to Boaz because he coming from out of town. Let's see what Boaz said.
Then said Boaz unto Ruth, Hearest thou not, my daughter?
He said, "Here's don't you understand? Don't you hear? Right?
Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here, fast by my maidens."
All right." He said, "Now only glean in my field. You've been here all day. From now on, I want you to stay right here in my field. Don't go anywhere else. Right? You stay right here." Why do you think he would have said that?
Because she's trying to get something to eat.
Yeah, maybe. Or he kept the law. Right? Remember we talked about last week how everybody is doing what was right in their own eyes, not Boaz. Right? He's from the same time period. He's from the time of the judges, but Boaz is a little different. Right? He makes sure what he does is according to the law. Right? Let's go to Deuteronomy. Deuteronomy chapter 24. Deuteronomy chapter 24. We're going to hold what we had there in Ruth. Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 17.
Thou shalt not pervert the judgment of the stranger, nor the fatherless, nor take a widow's raiment to pledge.
Right? So what is Naomi?
Stranger.
She's a stranger, probably fatherless too.
No. Ruth.
I mean, I'm sorry about that. Yeah, what is Ruth? Ruth is a stranger for sure because she is from Moab, right? All right, and then she's also a widow, right? So now she falls in two of these categories. Let's hear what else we need to do.
But thou shalt remember that thou wast a bondman in Egypt, and the Lord thy God redeemed thee thence. Therefore I command thee to do this thing.
Right? So the Most High God, he commanded Moses to tell us that we had to do this. We had to take care of people. We had to have mercy and be gracious to people. Right? That's why she looked and she said, I might find grace in whose land I go to. Right? So we are commanded to do this. Let's see what happens next.
When thou cuttest down thy harvest in thy field, and
right? So when you go to cut down the harvest in your field,
and hast forgot a sheaf in the field,
right? And you mess around and you leave a sheaf, you picking up all these sheaves and you trying to bring it in, and you're like, oh man, I messed around and forgot one. Let me go back and get it. Let's see what the law say to you.
Thou shalt not go again to fetch it.
You better leave it out there.
It shall be for the stranger, for the fatherless, and for the widow, that the Lord thy God may bless thee in all the work of thine hands.
Right? So that's why Naomi was saying, let me go ahead and let me glean amongst the sheep. Right? Whatever you leave is mine. And that's why Boaz was saying, you know what? Glean only in my field. Right? When you get to going to pick whatever's left over, do it only in my field. And he gonna tell her, we're gonna go back, let's go back to it, Ruth chapter 2, verse, I don't know. What verse would leave off? 11. Probably not 11, probably like 9, 8. 8, 9. Ruth chapter 2, verse 8.
Then said Boaz unto Ruth, hearest thou not, my daughter? Go not to glean in another field, neither go from hence, but abide here fast by my maidens.
Right, stay here, right by my maidens, right, my female servants.
Let thine eyes be on the field that they do reap, and go thou after them. Have I not charged the young men that they shall not touch thee? And when thou art athirst, go unto the vessels and drink of that which the young men have drawn. Then she fell on her face and bowed herself to the ground and said unto him, Why have I found grace in thine eyes, that thou shouldest take knowledge of me, seeing I am a stranger?
Right, that's exactly why he took knowledge, right? He knows what the law says. The law says to the stranger, right? You got to take care of the stranger. Let's go to John chapter 4. Oh, we got there in Ruth, and we're going to go to John chapter 4. Ruth was in the position to where she's looking like, I'm just trying to get a bite to eat for me and my mother-in-law. Right? She runs into this man Boaz, messing around, picking sheaves. Picking the gleans of around his sheaves. And then he says, don't go anywhere else. You pick amongst the sheaves, right? You get the good stuff. and stay in the protection. He said, I told my young men don't touch you. So in other words, they protecting you, right? And stay with my handmaids, right? So now you have some people to help you out, to work with you. You stay here and you glean everything you want, right? It's a valiant man, right? It's a good man, right? He's sitting here, he's making sure this stranger woman, this woman is not even of his country, he's looking to protect her, right? And to make sure. First thing he did, he noticed her, right? There had to be other women out there. First thing he did, he noticed, he said, who does she belong to? Oh, okay. All right. Well, let's make sure she get the good part. He liked her, right? He had some type of affection for her. He wanted to make sure that he looked out for her, right? But he didn't make a pass at her. He didn't do any of that. He just said, "I'm gonna look out," right? Didn't try to be forward or anything. Let's see if we can learn something from Ruth. Go to John chapter 4, verse 31.
In the meanwhile, his disciples prayed him, saying, Master, eat. But he said unto them, I have meat to eat that ye know not of.
All right. So he said, "I have meat," right? In other words, food. I have food that I eat that you don't have no idea about. Let's see what the world he's talking about.
Therefore said the disciples one to another, Hath any man brought him out to eat?
All right, so now the disciples looking like somebody bring him something to eat. Now we read this and we look at him like, oh, you stupid disciples. Obviously he's not talking about, right? But that's not how we think about it. We is actually in that situation. That's like me asking Terrence, you get something to eat? You hungry, man? I brought you something to eat. And then Terrence is coming back, I have food that you don't even know about, right? You don't even know about my food. Oh, you already ate, bro? All right, you know what I'm saying? All right, cool. What you tripping about? You know what I'm saying? Why you saying it like that? You know what I'm saying? Go ahead and read.
Jesus said unto them, My meat is to do the will of him that sent me, and to finish his work.
All right, so I bring Terrence a cheeseburger. He said, no, I got some food you don't even know about. I'm looking like, what are you talking about? Did somebody bring you? Just said you was hungry. Did somebody bring you something to eat? My food is to do the will of him who sent me. He's like, why don't you relax? I'm just trying to give you a cheeseburger. Like, we can do God's work all the time, but you have to understand that's how they were thinking. They're looking like, okay, man, you know what I'm saying? I'm talking about food. You always trying to make something spiritual. You know what I'm saying? So keep going.
Say not ye, there are yet 4 months, and then cometh harvest?
All right, he said, say not ye that they are 4 months. So in other words, in 4 months it's going to be time to harvest. All right. So he said, don't you say that?
Behold, I say unto you, lift up your eyes and look on the fields, for they are white already to harvest.
All right. He's saying it's already time for harvest. Don't wait 4 months. It's time to get at it now. Is he talking about harvesting food?
No.
No, he's talking spiritually, right? Let's see what he says next.
And he that reapeth receiveth wages, and gathereth fruit unto life eternal, that both he that soweth and he that reapeth may rejoice together.
All right, so we talked about this as sowing is when you plant, right? You put the seed into the ground. And reaping is when you take what's grown up and bundle it into your sheaves so you can eat it and store it. All right? So he says, these do it together. Keep going.
And herein is that saying true, one soweth and another reapeth.
All right, so one person putting it in the ground, somebody totally different came and they reaped it.
I send you to reap that whereon ye bestowed no labor. Other men labored, and ye are entered into their labors.
All right, so he said he sent them to reap some places they didn't even do the labor. They didn't even do the work to get it there, right? But they're reaping it. So who is he sending them to be? Sending them to be Ruth, right? Because that's what Ruth did. Ruth went into the land, but she didn't do no work in that land. All she doing is coming to glean. All right, so Yahushua, he sent his disciple, he's sending us out to be Ruth. All right, that's why we look at Ruth and we see, well, what can we learn from Ruth? What can we get out of Ruth, right? Ruth was valuing herself, right? Let's go to chapter 3, Ruth chapter 3, verse 1. Ruth chapter 3, verse 1.
Then Naomi, her mother-in-law, said unto her, My daughter, Shall I not seek rest for thee, that it may be well with thee? And now is not Boaz out of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast?
All right. So
Lust?
Naomi asked a question. She said, you know what I'm saying? We got to seek rest for you. In other words, we got to get you a husband so you can relax, right? And isn't Boaz, ain't he a kinsman, right? Isn't he? Don't you know that that's my family now, right? Why do you think she mentioned that?
Because in the law, if someone died, somebody had to be the closest relative, usually a brother or your uncle's son would have to take on the role as a husband.
That's absolutely right, right? Deuteronomy chapter 25.
Or if your pops didn't have no other sons, then your cousin, your uncle's son had to. Yeah.
Deuteronomy chapter 25. We're going to start at verse 5.
So you get a spit in the face or something. If brethren dwell together, and one of them die and have no child, the wife of the dead shall not marry without unto a stranger. Her husband's brother shall go into her and take her to him to wife, and perform the duty of a husband's brother unto her.
Right? So we see what was Ruth really doing when she said, no, I'm staying with you, right? She was keeping the law, right? The law said if the brother died, you know what I'm saying, if they dwell together, no, you don't go off and marry a stranger. So she went back to the land of Judah, right, where Boaz stayed. She can't go and marry no stranger. She can't marry anybody else, right, according to the law. All right, so now she's looking for Boaz. She's looking for a family. And so Naomi is bringing that up to her. Let's read more about this law.
And it shall be that the firstborn which she beareth shall succeed in the name of his brother which is dead.
Right? So now the brother who's alive, right, or the family member who's alive, he'll go into the wife, right? The wife of the dead husband. Right? He goes into her, and and the seed that comes up, the child that comes up, he goes to the name of the one that was dead. All right, so that's not really considered his kid. I'm just doing that to bring up some seed in him so that his seed doesn't end in the land of Israel, which is going to tell him.
That his name be not put out of Israel.
All right, so that his name not be put out of Israel. Oh, yeah, that would have been pretty tragic had that thing died. I thought it was plugged up. Guess not. All right, but they didn't want his name to be put out of Israel, because what would happen is if he's dead, he doesn't have any children. Now his name stops. Now his inheritance doesn't go through. So it just stops at that point. So now to keep that from happening, his brother, the closest kinsman to him, right, then he would end up having sex with his wife, right, and then they would bring on children. That's why when we read in Romans chapter 7, it said that now we marry another, talking about the congregation, right? Talking about all the believers in Yahushua, right? He said we will marry another, the one who's risen from the dead. And the reason why we marry him was to do what?
Bring up godly offspring.
Bring up fruit, right? Bring up fruit to God. So it's the same way. Now the fruit to God that he's talking about is talking about our good works, but he's relating it to the same thing as this law. Right? When he marry another, the reason why is to bring children that can go on and continue into this man's name, the dead brother's name. Right? So this is the law that the Most High God made. Keep going.
And if the man like not to take his brother's wife, then let his brother's wife go up to the gate unto the elders and say, my husband's brother refuses to raise up unto his brother a name in Israel.
All right? So now, if the man is looking like, nah, I don't want to do that. That's kind of weird. Yeah, I'm good. I don't want to do that. Let's see what happens.
He will not perform the duty of my husband's brother.
All right, so now the woman can go up to him and she get the elders, pull all the elders together. They're like, he don't want to do it. Right? He do not want to do it. That's not right. Let's see what happens.
Then the elders of his city shall call him and speak unto him. And if he stand to it and say, I like not to take her, then shall his brother's wife come unto him in the presence of the elders, and loose his shoe from off his foot, and spit in his face, and shall answer and say, so shall it be done unto that man that will not build up his brother's house.
Right? So now she take the shoe off his foot. Got to take one of his shoes, right? Then she can spit in his face, right? And so now he'll be known as the one who won't raise up seed. Keep going.
And his name shall be called in Israel the house of him that hath his shoe loosed.
Right? The house of him who has his shoe loose. Keep that in mind now. All right? The house of him who has his shoe loose. Let's go ahead and go back to Ruth chapter 3. So now this is why Naomi is mentioning this. She's like, now you do know that Boaz, that's the family member of my husband now. So you know what this means, right? She said, I'm gonna get you some rest now. Don't worry about it. Right? I'm gonna figure this thing out for you. We gonna get you a husband. So Naomi got this all worked out in her head. Right? A wise old woman, she knows the law. Right? So now she's about to instruct Ruth about how to get what she wants accomplished.
What did you say? Go back to We'll go back to Ruth.
Ruth chapter 3, verse 1, or well, verse 2 now.
And now is not Boaz of our kindred, with whose maidens thou wast? Behold, he winnoweth barley tonight in the threshing floor. Wash thyself therefore, and anoint thee, and put thy raiment upon thee, and get thee down to the floor. But make not thyself known unto the man until he shall have done eating and drinking.
Right? So he's saying now, this same Boaz, that's my family member. Listen, I'm going to tell you how to handle this, right? He out there working. You wait until he, get a little drink inside of him. Make sure that, make sure he's full. Make sure he's good to go. Once he's good to go now, how should she tell him?
And it shall be when he lieth down that thou shalt mark the place where he shall lie.
All right, so pay attention to where he lay down, right? Pay attention to where his bed is. Watch him, all right? Once he go to sleep, this is what you do.
And thou shalt go in and uncover his feet and lay thee down.
All right, so she laid his feet. She didn't tell her to hop in the bed with him. She didn't tell him to do anything inappropriate, right? She said you make sure you lay at his feet like a servant, right? So now his feet, you uncover his feet and you lay down. So you keep his weak feet warm with your body, right? Down at his feet. He sleep like this. She way down there at his feet, covering his feet up, right, with her body.
And he will tell thee what thou shalt do.
She said, if you do this, trust me, he gonna tell you what you should do now.
And she said unto her, all that thou sayest unto me I will do. And she went down unto the floor and did according to all that her mother-in-law bade her. And when Boaz had eaten and drunk, and his heart was merry, he went to lie down at the end of the heap of corn. And she came softly and uncovered his feet and laid her down.
What does this remind us of?
What Jesus said, wash his disciples' feet.
Oh, when he washed his disciples' feet? Yeah, that maybe. Or remember when the harlot came in and he was sitting with the Pharisees. She came in and he washed her, or she washed his feet with her hair and her tears. Remember, she was crying all over his feet and washed her with her hair. Right? And they're looking at him like, if he knew what manner of woman this was, he wouldn't let this woman touch him. All right? And then he asked a question. He put a parable to him. He said, now listen, you know what I'm saying? Two people owe money. All right? You got one of them, he owed this much money. You got another one, he only owed this much money. If the man said, I forgive both of y'all debt, who do you think would be happier? Like that. And he was like, oh, I suppose the one that had the most debt. And he said, well, this is what this woman is, right? Then he told her sins were forgiven, and he let her walk away. Right? So now let's see what Boaz tells Ruth here.
And it came to pass at midnight that the man was afraid and turned himself. And
All
behold,
right, so he looking down there, like, what is this? Is it midnight now? You know what I'm saying? He feels, ooh, what's that? Playing with my feet, right? Just like most of us would get scared, right? So he turned himself like, what in the world? Let's see what happened.
a woman lay at his feet. And he said, who art thou?
All right, who is it dark in here right now? Like, who are you?
And she answered, I am Ruth, thine handmaid.
All right, I'm your servant. All right, handmaid is a servant. He said, I'm Ruth, your servant.
Spread therefore thy skirt over thine handmaid, for thou art a near kinsman.
right? So spread your skirt over thy handmaid is something is a euphemism, right? It's not saying literally do it. She's saying cover me, right? Be my husband, right? Be my husband because you're a near kinsman, right? So according to the law, this is appropriate for you.
Maybe the closest, the next one up.
Exactly. Remember, his brother died, right? Two brothers died, so it's got to be the next one, right? So now we're gonna look at what Boaz said.
And he said, Blessed be thou of the Lord, my daughter, for thou hast showed more kindness in the latter end than at the beginning, inasmuch as thou followest not young men, whether poor or rich.
Right? He said, I got plenty of young men out there. There's some good looking young ones out there that work for me. He said, but you didn't go after none of them. Right? I got something that's rich and I got something that's poor. But you didn't go after any of those. He said, you've been more kind in the end. You came from me. Right? You're looking like you came from me. He didn't make no pass at her, nothing. He just made sure he treated her right. She recognized, she said, I know what I want. Right? I want this man. Right? And so she respectfully went, did exactly what her mother-in-law told her to do. He said, oh, blessed you are the Lord. Right? You came to me. All these young men, you didn't get them. I like that. Let's see what happens.
And now, my daughter, fear not. I will do to thee all that thou requirest. For all the city of my people doth know that thou art a virtuous woman.
Oh, he said, the whole city knows that you're a virtuous woman. What's a virtuous woman?
Proverbs 31.
Let's go to it. Proverbs 31. The whole we got there in Ruth. Let's see if we can figure out something about a virtuous woman.
Bless me.
Bless you.
And then they're here playing the game.
All right.
Playing Ninja Turtles.
Proverbs chapter 31. We're going to start at verse 10. We'll find out a little bit about a virtuous woman.
Who can find a virtuous woman?
Right. So this is go to verse 1. I forget what his name is.
King Lemuel.
Lemuel. Right. So this is Lemuel's mother. Right. Lemuel's mother taught King Lemuel this. Right. This is the instance of a woman teaching. Right. And she also calls herself a prophetess. But the reason why she could teach in this instance is because that's her son. Right. We know that the mothers can teach their children. Right. As long as they're not men. Right, as long as the mother can teach their children. That's what the mother is supposed to do. But now we jump down to 10, and it says, who can find a virtuous woman?
For her price is far above rubies.
All right, her price is far above precious jewels, far above rubies.
The heart of her husband doth safely trust in her, so that he shall have no need of spoil.
Right, he trusts in her. All right, so he trusts this woman, and he'll have no need of spoil. So in other words, she'll provide, right? She'll be able to take care of the household.
She will do him good and not evil all the days of her life.
All right, she's not looking to do him any evil. She's looking to do him good all the days of her life. This is a virtuous woman.
She seeketh wool and flax and worketh willingly with her hands.
All right, so she's not scared to get her hands dirty, right? She's willing to go out there. She's willing to work. And she's talking about wool and flax, so he's talking about clothing, right? She's ready to prepare the clothing for her household.
She is like the merchant ships. She bringeth her food from afar.
All right, so she bring the food from afar, all right, all the way upstairs, all the way downstairs. She bring it.
She riseth also while it is yet night and giveth meat to her household and a portion to her maidens.
Right? One of the things my mom used to do when we were younger. All right, she used to wake up early in the morning. Early in the morning, we'll wake up to smelling the foul food, bacon, and all that. But nevertheless, it was good, right? And we would wake up to it, smelling it before we even wake up. Still dark outside. And we have it before we go to school, right? It's a virtuous woman.
She considereth the field and buyeth it.
Right? She look at the field, she buy it.
With the fruit of her hand, she planteth the vineyard.
All right, so she out there working the yard, getting her little garden together.
She girdeth her loins with strength and strengtheneth her arms. She perceiveth that her merchandise is good. Her candle goeth not out by night.
She knows her worth. Right? She perceives that her merchandise is good. She knows what she's worth. All right, and her candle don't go out at night, so it's not like she just this way just for today, and then tomorrow she'll be totally different. All right, it's a virtuous woman.
She layeth her hands to the spindle, and her hands hold the distaff. She stretcheth out her hand to the poor, yea, she reacheth forth her hands to the needy.
All right, she's a generous woman, always looking to help.
She is not afraid of the snow for her household, for all her household are clothed with scarlet.
She said, we ready for snow. What are you talking about? All right, we got everything we need for snow. We got clothes for the snow. She's not scared of it.
She maketh herself coverings of tapestry, her clothing is silk and purple. Her husband is known in the gates when he sitteth among the elders of the land. She maketh the fine linen, and selleth it, and delivereth girdles unto the merchant. Strength and honor are her clothing, and she shall rejoice in time to come. She
shall rejoice right now.
In time to come.
She's going to rejoice in time to come. She's patient, right? She knows to understand. She knows times get rough, things get hard. You know, we go through things, it's rough, got to wake up early, got to do this, got to get the baby ready, got to do all these different things. It's so hard, but she knows that she'll rejoice. This, the virtuous woman, she knows that she's going to rejoice in time to come.
She openeth her mouth with wisdom, and in her tongue is the law of kindness.
All right, she said she opened up her mouth with wisdom. So that means she's not a dumb lady. She's making sure that she's on top of it, and she's saying wise, right? Wise is not how much you know, but wise is right from wrong, right? She makes sure that she's saying the right things.
She looketh well to the ways of her household, and eateth not the bread of idleness.
All right, she says she don't eat the bread of idleness. So in other words, she's not sitting here just, you know what I'm saying, not doing anything, right? A bunch of time on her hands. She's always trying to make the most of her time. She's always trying to make sure the house is completely together.
Her children arise up and call her blessed.
All right, children arise up, right? And they respect her. They call her blessed.
Her husband also, and he praiseth her. Many daughters have done virtuously, but thou exaltest them all.
So many daughters, they've done virtuously.
Excellest them all.
Right? It's a whole lot of daughters that they've done some good stuff. They've done virtuously. But the virtuous woman, she get past all of them.
Favor is deceitful and beauty is vain, but a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised.
All right, you got some favor, you got some beauty, right? Everybody nice to you. That's you know what I'm saying? That's deceitful. People nice to you because they want something for you. And beauty, that's empty because that's gonna go away eventually, right? You know, you're gonna get ugly, right? It's just gonna happen, right? But she said now what happens?
But a woman that feareth the Lord, she shall be praised.
You fear the Lord, that's something that lasts forever. You're gonna get praised because of that one. That's a virtuous woman.
Give her of the fruit of her hands, and let her own works praise her in the gates.
That's the last verse? I didn't know it ended like that. Let her own works praise her in the gates. So in other words, let her work show what she has to do. All right? That's a virtuous woman. That's the woman that we should all be teaching our daughters and our sisters and each other to be. Right? So we look, and then as men, we look out and we say, well, no, I need me a virtuous woman. I need you a virtuous woman. But what about the man? Right? Is there any Bible verse or any Bible chapter that'll break down what a man should be like it breaks down what a woman should be?
Yep.
Is it? Where?
Man loves your wives. Christ loved the church.
That's it?
Gave himself for it. And dwell with them in all understanding. And all that good stuff.
Let's go to Peter. 1 Peter chapter 3. That is all we get, though. Men, just love your wives like Christ loved the church. Amen. Right? The woman, she get a whole list. You need to be this. You need to do this. You got to work with your hands. You got to rise up early while it's still yet dark and get food to your household. All right? Your children got to be up. You got to raise your children right so they look at you and say you blessed. All right? You got to suffer through long stuff, and then you still got to know that, oh, yeah, my hope ain't far off, right? My joy isn't far off, right? All these things for a woman. Let's hear about the man. We still about to hear about the woman, actually. But
we got to love them like Christ loved the church, and that covers a whole
lot. You right about that. 1 Peter chapter 3.
Whose adorning, let it not be that outward adorning of planting the hair and of wearing of gold or of putting on of apparel.
All right, so he's talking about don't let your adorning, don't let the reason why people look at you and like you and why you trying to look beautiful and all that stuff, don't let it be with wearing braids in your hair, all right, or with putting on a bunch of makeup. All right, keep going.
But let it be the hidden man of the heart, in that which is not corruptible, even the adornment of a meek and quiet spirit, which is in the sight of God a great price.
All right, so he said be meek and a quiet spirit, just like Ruth was. All right, Ruth wasn't walking around trying to demand a whole bunch of stuff. She meek and she quiet. She, you know what? I'm just gonna pick in this yard. All right, gonna pick in this field, and I'm gonna go in. I'm gonna lay by his feet. She called herself his servant. Right, your handmaid is doing these things. Keep going.
For after this manner in the old time, the holy women also who trusted in God adorned themselves, being in subjective unto their own husbands, even as Sarah obeyed Abraham, calling him Lord, whose daughters ye are, as long as ye do well, and are not afraid with any amazement.
All right, so Sarah, she called her husband Lord, Master. All right, we look at this. You know what I'm saying, a lot of our women call the husbands all types of stuff we can't even utter, right? Things we shouldn't be saying. All right, but we look at this, and Sarah, she called her husband Master. All right, a woman called her husband Master nowadays, and we'll look at it as, is he beating you? All right, we'll look at it as she feels like she's lost her feminist rights. Right? And these are the different things that we look at, right? This feels wrong. Once you hear it, it's like, no, that can't be right. That's how our society's looked at us. It's wrong now for a woman to have this sort of role. You're being devalued. You're being overlooked. You're being dominated by men, right? You're letting somebody get over on you. You don't believe that was just for that time period. Things have changed, right? Well, let's keep reading.
Likewise, ye husbands, dwell with them according to knowledge, giving honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel, and as being heirs together of the grace of life, that your prayers be not hindered.
All right, if we mess around and do the wrong thing towards your right, then we have our prayers hindered. That's something we have to keep in mind, right? The men, something we have to keep in mind. But it's something interesting that he said. He said, dwell with them and honor them as what?
Honor unto the wife as unto the weaker vessel.
The weaker vessel, right? We look at this, we say, the weaker vessel, right? The woman weaker than the man, right? She got to submit to the man, so she's weaker, right? But what we just read in Proverbs, did that seem like the woman was weaker? Absolutely not. Because that's not what it is, right? We use weaker in the sense we look at it as, well, you can't lift more, which is actually true, right? But what we're looking at here is when it's saying weaker, is you have to deal with more, right? The woman has to deal with more. Just like if you have a handicap race, right? If you take me, you know what I'm saying, I'm not fast no more anyway. You take me when I was in elementary, right? And you put me up against a handicapped kid, right? A kid who, only has one leg, right? Is he slower than me? Absolutely, right? He's hopping on one leg. He's slower than me. But who's dealing with more? He's dealing with more. He has to work his muscles in a way that I can't work my muscles. I don't need to work I'm just running. It's easy for me. I don't have a lot of weight, right? You take a fat kid or you take a kid who only has one leg, he's carrying a lot more. He has to hold a lot more. And so that's what it's talking about, the weaker vessel. The things that women do, men could never do. And I learned this just with my wife. Right? She wake up every night to feed the baby, change him, do all these things. And every morning I look up like, you're crazy. He would still have that same poop on him right now when it's appropriate for me to change him according to my sleep. Right? It's just certain things that the woman can constantly do over and over that they're designed for. Right? Their entire makeup, the genetic makeup. Right? The woman is designed to hold it. So now when she reaches her time of flowering, right? And she starts to have her menstrual, her body is now based around completely getting prepared to have a child. So now she deals with these things that we may call infirmities, right? But she deals with these things the entire time, which messes up the chemicals in her body, which causes her to react and act and look at things in a certain way. These are things that she has to deal with for the rest of her life, right? Then she ends up getting married and having a child, right? This is a child, a human being that she literally carries in her body for 9 months. Right? She literally carries a human being in her body. She deals with all the things that come with that. Then after that, she stays up. She breastfeeds, right? She breastfeeds with this baby. So now the baby is attached to her. She's the primary one dealing with the baby. We go to work. It's a lot of things that we just not going to deal with, right? But the mom is, right? The mother, the woman, she is, because she's built for this. This is exactly what she's here for, right? That's why Naomi is looking like, we got to have a husband, right? That's why Orpah was like, okay, I'm going back to the land. because this was the pride of a woman. This has been taken away from our women now, right? The pride of what they're here for, the purpose, the glory in what they do has been taken away. It's been looked at, you're more than that. You could do exactly what the man do, which is way less than what the woman do, which is of less value, which is less. So now a woman is trying to be a man, which is just basically, that's degrading her, right? The woman tries to have the responsibilities of a man, and that's degrading her. And it sets our whole culture on a rock, right? And we look at a virtuous woman. We look at a woman that does all these things, and the man says, well, that's what I want. But now our men aren't anything. All right, our men aren't in a position where they're willing to die and provide or do whatever it takes to scrape and scrub just to make sure that he can honor the weaker vessel, right? She has to deal with all these things, so somebody has to carry her, right? Now, while she's carrying the entire household on her shoulders, somebody has to go and say, you know what, I got you, right? And so now this is what we have to do as men, but our men have become weak, right? And we talked about this before, how this happens and how it comes, but it's of the Most High God. So now you have women who don't want to be virtuous, they want to be men, and you have men who don't want to be men, they want to be cheap, unfaithful, untrustworthy cheaters and liars and all this craziness. Don't even get me started on the men, but the men want to be weak, right? So now the men want to be taken care of completely. The men don't want to go out and provide. The men want to cheat and try to get over on every woman that they touch, right? And so it leaves us in a position where our whole culture, our whole understanding of what is and what should be is off. It leaves a woman feeling like, well, she has to have the position of a man. It leaves a man saying, I want a virtuous woman, but he hasn't done anything to even attract or to say that he should lay claim to something of that stature, right? And it leaves us all in these positions. So that's why Peter tells us honor them as the weaker vessel, not because they're weaker as in what they do has less value or strength or less effect, because it has more value, more strength, more effect. There's more description of what a woman should be than what a man should be, right? And the reason is because what they do is more effective, right? Every man, every preacher, even Yahushua himself came through a woman, right? The woman has to give birth to this entire nation except for Adam. Adam was the only person that didn't come through a woman. Every single body else came through a woman. And that's the glory of a woman. That's what he made it here for, right? That's the importance. That's what we have to look at. And now with a woman, she has to be able to find a man, and that's why it's important for us men to be more, right? And we learn it on the job, right? We learn it on the job. With virtuous women, we learn how to be virtuous women, and we learn how to be good husbands because we didn't have this representation in our households, right? Even me, I had a great dad, but we didn't have this representation in our households, right? So we're learning on the job just from reading the Bible. That requires us to be patient with each other. But at the same time, it's important that we have a trustworthy man that a woman can look at you and say, I know you have a plan. I know you're going to take care of me. I have no problem submitting to you. You're going to lead me right. I trust that in you. I can look at you and I say, you know what? I know that wherever you lead us is going to be the right way. That's how Sarah looked at Abraham, right? Sarah looked at Abraham like, I know what you do. So she had no problem calling him Lord. That's how Ruth looks at Boaz. She has no problem calling herself his maidservant, right? So it's something. It's a requirement for the men to be that, to put their life on the line for the woman. All right. Let's go to John chapter 13. Well, let's go to Ruth chapter 4 first. Ruth.
Yeah, get off of his.
Ruth chapter 4, verse 1. It is true, though. A woman can do what a man do. Man can't do what a woman do. It's impossible. Not going to happen. You said you can do it.
I'm not doing it. I'll do something that crazy.
It's just not going to happen. Not capable.
Then went Boaz up to the gate and set him down there, and behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by.
Right? So just to cover some of the part that we skipped, in Ruth chapter 3, after he told her that she is a virtuous woman, he said, I'm going to do this for you. But there's somebody that's a more near kinsman to you than I am. See, Boaz keeps the law, right? He said, I'm not about to just cheat just because I like you. I'm not like you. I'm not about to just go around the corner and try to, maybe nobody would notice. He said, no, it's somebody that's a closer kinsman, so technically he's supposed to do this. So he says, let me holler at him first. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to holler at him. So now, chapter 4, he sat down, he made a place for himself, and he saw the man.
Then went Boaz up to the gate and sat him down there, and behold, the kinsman of whom Boaz spake came by, unto whom he said, Ho, such a one, turn aside, sit down here. And he turned aside and sat down.
He said, come over here and sit down with me. Come chop it up with me real quick.
And he took 10 men of the elders of the city and said, Sit ye down here. And they sat down.
So why did he bring the elders of the city?
Because the witness and in the law, the elders were supposed to be there when the brother was supposed to take the wife.
Right? So we just read it out of the law. It's absolutely right that the elders were supposed to be there. All right? So let's hear about what happened now. You see Boaz, he's very precise on the law. We just read it last week about everybody who did what was right in their own eyes. You had people that had idols. They were worshiping the Most High God, but they had idols, right? They're sitting there bowing down to him because they're looking like, well, I know who I'm worshiping. As long as I'm worshiping God, this idol don't really mean nothing to me. I'm worshiping God, right? It doesn't matter, you know what I'm saying? No big deal. Most High God is looking at it. That's not what I told you to do, though, right? I told you specifically what you need to do, and that's what we need to do, right? Exactly what he says. So now Boaz is looking at it like, well, let me go exactly according to what the law says. I'm at the gate, right? Because they told bring him to the gate if he didn't want to do it. So he said, I'm at the gate. He already knows, he probably ain't going to want to do it. So let me get to the gate. Let me get these elders around, right? He invited the elders. Everybody, come on, let's chop it up, right? Keep going.
And he said unto the kinsman Naomi, that is come again out of the country of Moab, selleth a parcel of land, which was our brother Elimelech's. And I thought to advertise thee, saying, Buy it before the inhabitants and before the elders of my people.
Right? So now this is a different law. We don't have to go back and get this one, but there's another law in our law that actually tells us that if land is transferred, then kinsmen can redeem that as well. So if I'm of the tribe of Judah and Terrence is of the tribe of Judah, and somehow he loses his land or he dies and leaves, and the only person who has his land is his wife or a widow or something like that, well then me as somebody else from Judah, I can go and I can redeem his land, right, as being a part of his family, right? So he's saying that he said, I came to advertise to you, it's some land, right? He didn't mention the wife part. He said it's some land, right? Naomi, you got some land that you can, you know what I'm saying? I have to advertise for you to redeem it. So let's see what this brother says.
If thou wilt redeem it, redeem it. But if thou wilt not redeem it, then tell me that I may know. For there is none to redeem it besides thee, and I am after thee.
All right, so he said, if you don't redeem it, that means it falls to me, right? None to redeem it besides you, and then after you is me. See what the brother said.
And he said, I will redeem it.
He said, yeah, I want that land. What you talking about? Where is that? He said, absolutely, I'll redeem it. Let's see.
Then said Boaz, What day thou buyest the field of the hand of Naomi?
Now Boaz said, hold on now. Now the day that you buy the field from Naomi, right? Remember, Naomi is the mother-in-law. That's the old lady. Now the day that you buy the field from Naomi, the day that you redeem it, what's going to happen?
Thou must buy it also of Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of the dead, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance.
Oh, so he said now after you do that, you know you got to raise up the dead, right? Raise up the lineage from the Moabite woman, right? Yeah, she from Moab. She's from Moab, right? Let's see what the gentleman says now.
And the kinsman said, I cannot redeem it for myself, lest I mar my own inheritance.
He said, no, I can't do that unless I mess up my own inheritance. You know what I'm saying? You got me trying to mess with a Gentile? Bro, I can't even do it. I mess up my own inheritance now. He said, never mind. Let's see what happens now.
Redeem thou my right to thyself, for I cannot redeem it.
He said, you go ahead and take it, because I don't want no parts of it. You know what I'm saying? You go ahead and redeem it for yourself, because I cannot take it. Let's see what happens next.
Now this was the manner in former time in Israel concerning redeeming and concerning changing, for a confirm of all things. A man plucked off his shoe and gave it to his neighbor, and this was a testimony in Israel.
Right? So why did he take off his shoe?
Because in the law it says he will be known as the man who had his shoe loosed.
Right? So he loosed his shoe. Right? Loosed his shoe. Because he didn't want to do it. Right? He said, I can't do it. He said, I can't redeem you. I can't redeem these people. I can't redeem that land. I can't redeem Ruth. Can't do it. Go ahead and take the shoe. All right? What happens next?
Therefore the kinsman said unto Boaz, buy it for thee.
That's me.
So he drew off his shoe.
He drew off his shoe.
And Boaz said unto the elders and unto all the people, ye are witnesses this day that I have bought all that was Elimelech's, and all that was Kilion's and Mahlon's of the land and of the hand of Naomi. Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren.
All right, so he brought up fruit to the dead. That's the reason why he did it. So his name won't be cut off among his brother. All right? So the one who loosed the shoe wasn't able to redeem. The one that got the shoe is the redeemer. He said, you see, now I redeemed it, and I purchased Ruth. Right? Who purchased us?
Christ.
Oh, let's go to John. The book of John, chapter 13. Book of John, chapter 13, verse 4. It's going to make a little sense in a second. John, chapter 13, verse 4.
He riseth from supper,
All right, so he rose from supper. He rose from eating, from dinner.
and laid aside his garments, and took a towel, and girded himself.
All right, this is Yahushua, right? So Yahushua, he laid aside his garments, so he took off just some of his clothes so he didn't get them messy. Then he took a towel to himself after girding his loins.
After that he poureth water into a basin, and began to wash the disciples' feet, and to wipe them with the towel wherewith he was girded.
All right, so now the towel that was around his belt, you know what I'm saying, he took that off and started to wipe their feet. They had to have their shoes off, huh? He took their shoe. All right, keep going.
Then cometh he to Simon Peter, and Peter said unto him, Lord, dost thou wash my feet?
He said, why are you trying to take my shoe off? All right, you washing my feet?
Jesus answered and said unto him, what I do thou knowest not now, but thou shalt know hereafter.
Now, he said, you're not going to understand right now, but hereafter you're going to understand.
And Peter saith unto him, thou shalt never wash my feet.
He said, no, you can't wash my feet. He said, I can't do it.
Jesus answered him, if I wash thee not, thou hast no part with me.
Why would he say that to him? Because if Peter kept the shoe, that means Peter would have to be the one to redeem, right? No, he said, I need that shoe. He said, if I wash thee not, you have no part with me. Let's see. So Peter, what's Peter going to say next?
Simon Peter saith unto him, Lord, not my feet only, but also my hands and my head.
He said, you might as well get the whole body. That makes sense if we're talking about washing, though, right? Let's see what Yahushua said.
And Jesus said unto him, he that is washed needeth not save to wash his feet, but is clean every whit. And ye are clean, but not all.
He said, all I need to do is wash your feet. And if I wash your feet, you be clean. Just give me the shoe, please. All I need is that shoe. Right? You give me that shoe, we good. Just let me wash your feet. All right? Because he's the Redeemer. Right? The Redeemer has to get the shoe. Right? It's the person, the ones who take off the shoe, that's the one who I can't do it. I can't be the Redeemer. I can't redeem. Right? But the one who keep the shoe, well, he the one. That's why they didn't wash his feet. He washed theirs. Right? That was important for him. He said, look, you don't understand what I'm doing now. But soon, you're going to understand it and you're going to get it good. All right? Who else tried to take off some shoes?
Did the harlot take off Yahushua's shoes when she was crying?
No, she just cried and washed his feet with her hair. She didn't take off her shoes, though. What about John the Baptist? What did he say?
Whose sandal am not worthy to unloose.
He said, I couldn't take it off. Let's try to get it. John chapter 1, verse 19. He said, his sandal, I'm not even worthy to take it off. I wonder why he said that. You can cut that out. John chapter 1, verse 19.
And this is the record of John when the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who art thou?"
Right? So this is John the Baptist. It's the record. This is what he recorded. All right? So John the Baptist is about to tell the Jews, they sent somebody to question him, like, okay, who are you now? Because they want to know. This is the prophet. You're doing some great things. You baptizing people. We need to find out exactly who are you.
And he confessed and denied not, but confessed, "I am not the Christ."
He said, I'm not the Redeemer. Right? I'm not the Christ. All right, keep going.
And they asked him, "What then? Art thou Elias?" And he saith, "I am not." "Art thou the prophet?" And he answered, "No." Then said they unto him, "Who art thou? That we may give an answer to them that sent us. What sayest thou of thyself?" He said, "I am the voice of the one crying in the wilderness, make straight the way of the Lord, as said the prophet Isaiah. And they which were sent were of the Pharisees. They asked him and said unto him, "Why baptizest thou then, if thou be not that Christ, nor Elias, neither the prophet?"
He said, why are you baptizing people if you're not the Redeemer, if you're not the Christ? Right? It doesn't make any sense. Let's see what he says next.
John answered them, saying, I baptize with water, but there standeth one among you whom ye know not. He it is who cometh after me is preferred before me, whose shoes latchet I am not worthy to unloose.
That means he's not the Redeemer. Right? He said, now, even if I wanted to unloose his shoe. Because remember, the Redeemer unloose. The one who don't want to redeem or can't do it, his shoe gets unloosed. He said, I'm not worthy to take his shoe off. That don't even make no sense. He's the Redeemer. All right, that's what he's trying to tell them. All right, we look at the law and we see this. Oh, he's the Redeemer. They should have caught on at that point. All right, he's talking about somebody who's about to redeem us. All right, go to the law. Let's see. Let's go to Exodus. See if this makes more sense. Exodus chapter 3. Who was one of our first redeemers? Moses, right? Exodus chapter 3, verse 2.
And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him in a flame of fire out of the midst of the bush. And he looked, and behold, the bush burned with fire, and the bush was not consumed.
All right, so Moses saw this bush. It's burning with fire, and it's not consumed. Let's see what happens next.
And Moses said, I will now turn aside and see this great sight, why the bush is not burnt.
Mm-hmm.
And when the Lord saw that he turned aside to see, God called unto him out of the midst of the bush and
He
said,
said, redeem my people.
Moses, Moses.
Redeem my people, please.
And he said, Here am I. And he said, Draw not nither, put off thy shoes from off thy feet,
Uh-oh.
for the place whereon thy standeth is holy ground.
He told him, you're not the Redeemer. He said, you're not going to be the true Redeemer. Not at all. All right? He said, the place you stand is, go ahead and give me a shoe. So who redeeming at that point?
God.
The Most High God redeeming. He said, you're not the Redeemer. Give me a shoe. Before we even get started, hey, how you doing? Before we even get started, let's make this clear. You're not the Redeemer. Go ahead and give me the shoe. Right? Who is our next Redeemer? Joshua. Let's go to see what Joshua is talking about. Joshua, chapter 5, verse 13. Joshua chapter 5, verse 13. All right, so this is after Joshua. Joshua, he's coming to the land. All right, and he's going up to battle against Jericho. Remember Rahab? She tied the red scarlet, and the people spared her and her household as long as she stayed in the house. All right, so that was Jericho. All right, so this is right before that happens. All right, so Joshua was looking like, I don't know how we're going to take this city. All right, so he's chilling out. All right, Joshua chapter 5, verse 13.
And it came to pass, when Joshua was by Jericho, that he lifted up his eyes and looked, and behold, there stood a man over against him with his sword drawn in his hand. And Joshua went unto him and said unto him, Art thou for us or for our adversaries?
All right, so he looked and he saw a man he had a sword drawn, right? Sword just so he just standing there with a sword. It's like somebody just standing there with a pistol out, right? He said he looked at him. He said, "Well, hold on, you friend or foe, right? You with me or are you against us? You with our adversary? What's going on here?" Let's see what the man
He
said.
said, Nay, but as a captain of the hosts of the Lord am I now come.
He said, "I come as a captain of the host of Yahuwah, right? I'm leading Yahuwah people. I'm the head of Yahuwah people."
And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship.
And
said
he
unto
worshipped
him,
them now. Now, who remembers when we worshiped the angel, what happened?
You must not do that.
Uh-oh.
See that you do not do that.
Angel, so you try to worship an angel now. He going to tell you quick. Go ahead and get up. I'm not.
I am a servant like you.
I'm just like you now. Don't worship me. Right? But not this angel. This angel said, go ahead and do it. Right? Go ahead. You did the right thing. Go ahead and bow down. You did the right thing. What happens now?
And Joshua fell on his face to the earth and did worship, and said unto him, What saith my Lord unto his servant?
Right? So what said Yahuwah unto his servant?
And the captain of the Lord's host said unto Joshua, Loose thy shoe from off thy foot, for the place whereon thy standeth is holy.
He said, before you even get too far into taking over this land, go ahead and give me that shoe. I need that shoe. I need everybody to know you're not the one. You're not the Redeemer. Right? Who's the Redeemer at this point now? The host, right? I mean, the captain of the host, right? Yahuwah. He came, he said, go ahead and give me the shoe, Joshua. Before you even get to, I'm about to tell you how to go ahead and get over in Jericho, but we need a witness right now just to show you're not it. You're not going to be the one. Right? Those are the two people that redeemed our people. Right? That brought us out and brought us in. Right? Moses brought us out. Joshua brought us in. Moses brought us out of Egypt. Joshua brought us into the promised land. Right? They were the redeemers of our people. But after that, you had prophets, you had kings, you had a lot of people. Nobody else that redeemed them. Right? Nobody else that brought us from one place and changed our state, right? Changed who we are. Right? Nobody else did that until you get to Yahushua. And what do you know when you get to Yahushua, you got John the Baptist say, now him, I can't take off his shoe now. That don't make no sense for me to try to take off his shoe. I'm not worthy to do that. Right? But then you see him, I got to wash your feet. Listen, you don't understand what I'm doing now, but I got to wash your feet. Well, go ahead and wash my whole body. No, trust me. The only thing I need is your feet. Then you'll be all wick clean. Because he's the Redeemer. Right? He had to show a witness to that. He redeemed the land, which is he going to do, and he purchased the woman, right? Which is the congregation, the church, which is us, right? All of us that believe. He purchased us, right? Let's go ahead and finish off Ruth. Ruth chapter 4. Ruth chapter 4, verse 9, I guess. I think that's where we left off.
Moreover, Ruth the Moabitess, the wife of Mahlon, have I purchased to be my wife, to raise up the name of the dead upon his inheritance, that the name of the dead be not cut off from among his brethren, and from the gate of his place. Ye are witnesses this day. And all the people that were in the gate, and the elders said, We are witnesses. The Lord make the woman that is come into the house like Rachel and like Leah.
Who is Rachel and Leah?
Jacob's wife.
Jacob's wife. Remember, Jacob had 2 wives. We read about that. All right? And so they gave birth to who?
12 children of Jacob.
12 tribes. Go ahead and read.
Which
Rachel and
two
Leah.
did build the house of Israel.
Right? So they built the house of Israel. So now the elders, after they witnessed it, they said, they blessed her. They said, now let her be like Rachel and let her be like Leah. And they built the tribes of Israel. Let's see who else.
And do thou worthily in Ephrath, and be famous in Bethlehem.
All right, so be famous in Ephrath, which is Judah, right? In Judah, in Bethlehem, right? In the same area. All right, who's from Bethlehem?
David and Jesus.
All right, keep reading.
What was that? And let thy house be like the house of Pharez, whom Tamar bare unto Judah.
Remember who Pharez is? We didn't cover that too much. Pharez was the son of Judah, right? So Judah, the son of Jacob, right? He slept with, what's her name? Terah? Tamar, right? So he slept with Tamar and ended up having a son, Pharez, right? And Pharez ended up having sons as well. He's gonna keep going though.
Of the seed which the Lord shall give thee of this young woman. So Boaz took Ruth, and she was his wife. And when he went in unto her, the Lord gave her conception, and she bare a son. And the women said unto Naomi, Blessed be the Lord, which hath not left this day without a kinsman, that his name may be famous in Israel.
All right, so his name's gonna be famous. Let's see what happens.
And he shall be unto thee a restorer of thy life, and of a nourisher of thine old age.
All right, so who's the restorer of life and the nourisher of old age?
Jesus.
Yahushua, right? All right, he said we're gonna live forever. He said everlasting. That's an old age.
But thy daughter-in-law, which loveth thee, which is better to thee than 7 sons, hath borne him. And Naomi took the child and laid it in her bosom, and became nursed unto it. And the women of her neighbors gave it a name, saying, There is a son born of Naomi, and they called his name Obed. He is the father of Jesse, the father of David. Now these are the generations of Pharez. Pharez begot Hezron, and Hezron begot Ram, and Ram begot Amminadab, and Amminadab begot Nahshon, and Nahshon begot Salmon.
So Nahshon begot Salmon. Guess who Salmon is? Remember we talked about Rahab?
Mm-hmm.
All right, Rahab was from Jericho. So Salmon, he's from Judah. He went out and grabbed him a Gentile too. All right, so he went out and grabbed Rahab. But he and Rahab had a child. Let's see what the child name was.
And Salmon begot Boaz.
Oh, so now we see where Boaz come from. That's why Boaz, he's like, look, I ain't got no problem going to Gentile. My mama a Gentile, right? I can grab me a quick Moabite. That's no problem, right? I can grab me. The Most High God didn't say we couldn't have no Moabite. He said we couldn't mess with no Canaanites. My mom was a Canaanite. You know what I'm saying? She got a pass. You know what I'm saying? But now, Moab, that's fair game there. Come on. He said, I ain't got no problem with that. Let's see who they had now.
And Boaz begot Obed, and Obed begot Jesse.
And Obed had Jesse.
And Jesse begot David.
And Jesse begot David.
And David begot Solomon. And Solomon begot Rehoboam. Rehoboam begot.
Yeah, I was about to say you title. You can go past that.
I don't know. Jotham, Uzziah, Azariah. I don't know.
One of them, right? We'll get into it though. By the time we're done, we'll be able to have a better memory. It's a lot of these things. But we ended up getting David, and David begot who?
Solomon.
But who's the son of David?
Jesus.
Yahushua, right? So now this is the genealogy. Now you know why Ruth is in the book, right? It's in the book because it's important to Yahushua's genealogy. It's important to know where he came from. He came from this valiant woman who had a baby that's going to be the restorer of life, right? The blessing of old age. That's the end. So next week, what we're going to do is we're going to grab on to 1 Samuel, all right? And we'll learn about Samuel, how Samuel came about. We'll probably get into Saul, and I don't know if we may touch on David next week. We may not. We'll see.
Get good, man.
But we're definitely going to start getting into the kings, right? So Saul would be our first king, and we're going to figure out how that came about. Samuel was our last judge, so this is still a period of judges. Samuel ends up being our last judge. And so we'll read into that, and we're going to continue to go through in order throughout the entire Bible. But this is when the study can get real. You know what I'm saying? So far, you know what I'm saying, I can study a little bit. Well, it don't seem like a little bit. I study a lot, but now it's like, you know, this is where you got to crack open a whole lot of books. So, you know what I'm saying? We're going to take our time and pray that the Most High opens up a lot of understanding like he's been doing so far. You know, he's been good to us and giving the things that he's given us. A lot of things that other people aren't getting. A lot of people are looking at the Bible around this world, even today as we speak right now. People open up the Bible and he sees fit that he opens up our understanding to a lot of things. So these are things that we don't want to take for granted. All right, because the more understanding that we get, the more of this that we're held accountable for. We don't want to get caught being the people who don't hear and it ends up becoming a snare and a trap for us. All right? Let's go ahead and pray out, TJ. hit the stop for me so we can pray.
Oh, Dad.